Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode of Just Call Me Bridget podcast. I really do hope that you like this podcast, and if you do, please subscribe to the channel, and also if you would like a bit of more information, please join my Patreon because it really supports to help the podcast grow, and I really only want to bring the best guests out for you. I hope you enjoy another episode, and I hope that I do give you some new knowledge that you didn't know before and it was helpful. This is all why I do this. I started this podcast just to help all the visa holders out in Australia because I didn't have enough information when I started, and I really want to make this experience a lot better for you than it was for me, that you can just come to this podcast and you'll get everything you need to know to succeed in Australia. Thank you. Welcome guys to the 11th episode 2 of Just Call Me Bridget podcast. And today is a bit of a different podcast because today we have Aveli, and she is one of my childhood best friends, and we've had this crazy story which we can go into in a moment where we grew up together and then we were sort of separated, and now we've ended up both in Perth in Australia. And yeah, I'm so excited that you came here today. So if you want to, and honestly, this is a recommendation, Aveli has almost 700 posts on your Instagram. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
And I went through your post today and I was like, wow, like that's a lot of posts, but I love that you can literally scroll through your life journey through your Instagram. And not only that, do you have your personal account, you've also created at Kubi Home account, which is for your house renovations as well.
Yes, correct.
So yeah, welcome to the podcast today. I'm very excited to have you.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. So excited that I came here already yesterday. Got the days mixed up a little bit, but here I am. Second try, I guess. So I hope this works out well today. But I have been so excited for a few weeks now. We've been talking about it since last year.
Yeah.
We were very busy and a lot was going on, so finally we're doing it, and I actually still don't know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, so so I'm going through sort of like my friends list in the podcast right now, and all of my friends are always like, oh, what is there to talk about? Like, what do I have to share? But when you and I went on a walk, I was like, dude, like you literally, you've traveled so much. Australia isn't the first country that you've been living in. And you've sort of gone through sort of a similar story that I was, like you've been to so many different states, done so many different jobs, and now today you're working in an office and you're, going to get your PR, and you're already living in a house that you own, and you're doing all these renovations and so on. So there is definitely a lot that we are going to go through, and we're also going to talk about, like recruitment and office jobs and your job in the city. And I think there's a lot of listeners that, I always only talk about like sort of like these farm jobs and like normal visa holder jobs. So I think for you, it is a bit different because you're living in the city and you're working in the city, and you're pretty much living the life that every girl really wants to. Like you're going to work in high heels and nice clothes and all of that. So we can definitely like talk about networking and all of that, and how important it is to show up. But for our listeners who don't know you, do you want to give us like sort of an overview of how has your Australian journey been like, and how long you've been here? Where did that decision even come for you to come here?
Yep. So I've been in Australia for just over 5 years now. The decision came actually extremely randomly. I after high school lived in Scotland for a year, where I actually thought I will stay for a long time, until I realised that it's freaking cold and I can't live in a cold country. So after that, I needed a quick, warm escape. I was going to go to Mexico. I had everything planned. I had a place to stay. I just needed to find plane tickets and buy them and just fly. My mom and dad were extremely worried that something's going to happen to me if I go to Mexico, which is completely understandable. I would be too if my daughter would say that. So can't blame them. At first, I didn't really want to take them seriously and I was going to go anyway, but then I realized probably would be stupid to go there alone. So I went to Egypt instead. And to some people, it also sounds a bit dangerous if you go to Egypt alone as a woman. But I've traveled there 10 times actually. Been there many times since I was little. So it was kind of like my second home. So I was very excited to go there. Didn't stay there that long. I was there for about 3 months. So I was working in a hotel and staying there. I actually changed the hotel in the middle as well. And it was fun, very exhausting. Because you start working in the morning, you have breaks throughout the day, and you finish late at night. Sometimes you might have to go to nightclubs, which sounds fun, but when you're working, it's not. So yeah, didn't earn any money there really. I think monthly salary was $150, which
Wow.
for 1 month I didn't get anything because I left before the payday. So yeah, I finished that off with a 2-week holiday in a 5-star hotel alone, which was nice, and went home for Christmas. I stayed in Estonia for Christmas, New Year, and a little bit in January. And then my mom asked me, so when are you going to find a job? And that's when I realized I don't want to find a job in Estonia. She gave me a phone number to someone who works at a fuel station and said that you can call them and get a job. I can't remember if I actually called and tried to get a job, but I knew I'm not going anywhere. And I was like, yep, that's not going to happen. And I just needed to think of a plan B. So I decided to find a country where it's warm, where it's good money and people speak English. And yeah, it's Australia. So the travel here was actually quite quick for me. In 11 days, I decided I'm coming.
Wow.
So basically, I can't remember if it was 10 or 9 days before coming, I bought the tickets. I actually didn't have money, so I had to lend money from my granny. And I was just kind of relying on that because I had spent all my savings in Egypt. So yeah, I flew to Melbourne, stayed there for a week, had the best time. In my head, it seemed like Australia is the best place and I'll be rich immediately anyway, so why worry about anything? I was lucky enough to have a friend here who I went to school with, so he was able to kind of show me around, make me feel a bit more comfortable, because I did travel here alone, but at least I had someone already waiting for me here. After a week in Melbourne, we went to Brisbane, where things were not easier either, but we were lucky enough to stay at a pool house for free because we had to keep the garden nice and pretty. So that was how it all started. That's when also COVID started, and that's where life got very difficult and finding a job was basically impossible. And yeah, I'd say it was a very rocky beginning for me, but it was extremely fun because I went through a lot of things that I now think back to I would never go through again. I would never want to do it again, but I'm so glad it all happened. And I need to be completely honest, it was hard to find a job, but I probably wasn't as proactive at it either. So it was, fun. We had the pool there. Brisbane, we were very close to the city centre. Just, going around, well, didn't really have much money. At one point, it was minus $7 on my bank account, and my friend Kathy, she had to send me $10, so I would actually have something on my account, and I wouldn't have to start paying for the bank. So
That's great, yeah.
yeah, and I was eating Coles, those cheese scrolls, pack of 4. I was eating like 2-3 days, and yeah, it wasn't nice in that way, but I was skinny, which was good. I don't know if that matters. But yeah, it was a very rocky start for me in Australia, and it kind of got better and then worse and better and worse. It was quite like a roller coaster, but I would say right now, over 5 years later, I'm at a place in my life where I would have never even dreamed of being, because I feel like when you live in Estonia, your dreams, you can dream of things, but they don't seem that realistic. Whereas now I dream of things and it seems way more achievable. So yeah, I am extremely happy right now. So I don't know if I even covered your question. I just got carried away.
So how long did it actually sort of take you from landing to Melbourne to actually finding your first like stable job sort of?
Well, a stable job. So I was in Brisbane for about 2 months until I actually found a job which was not stable. It was a door-to-door sales job where you have to book appointments with people so they would get the solar panels on the roofs. So I was walking a lot for 2 weeks, which was nice. You had kind of like a minimum salary there that you earned, and then later if you get enough leads and you reach your goals, you get paid extra. Because I was there for only 2 weeks, there was no extra for me. But I was good at it. At least that's what they told me. And in meetings, they would say as well, Aveli got the most leads in one day. Don't know if they were successful because, I left before. But yeah, it was good. Really liked it. But yeah, that's when COVID really hit like strong. And one day I was at work and I just got a call or a message from my friend saying that Brisbane's going in lockdown, and if you're not out now, you're not going to be able to leave. And that's when I freaked out, because I was like, I need a farm job. I actually need a job that I can, afford proper food with, and, I don't have to count money all the time. So lucky enough, again, Kathy saves the day all the time. She sent me, she was already at a farm at that point. So she sent me a few numbers to other farmers that she got from her farm owner. And I just kept calling. I was at my job. I just sat down on a curb and I just started calling different farmers. And it was scary because, never done this before. And even though I was in an English-speaking environment for a long time already, it was still a completely new country. I had no idea even what to expect. I did have a car, but I didn't have anything else, and I had no experience, and I actually didn't even know anything about Australia before coming here. So it's like I had zero knowledge. So luckily, again, I kept being lucky with things, but I got a call back from one of the farmers who at first told me no, but then later called me back and said, hey, we actually might have something for you. I think they just started feeling sorry for me. They said that they don't really take backpackers, but they have a bit of weeding spray, like, those weed killer spray that you spray. They have a bit of that to do, and just random farmhand jobs. So the next day I just drove. I woke up in the morning, early morning, drove 6 hours just to the border of New South Wales and Queensland, and started my first farm job. And it was kind of weird because it was 2 weeks of quarantine that I had to do, but I was still working and they were like handing me things over and leaving them outside so I could pick them up. And it was like a very strange situation. And I was living in those, what they're called, like the little, I think they have the same living arrangement in mines as well.
Like dongas.
Yeah, dongas. I was living in one of them, but there was no one else living in there. So I was like living in one of those. There was no internet really. I was kind of out of reach of anyone, and I was so lonely, so bored. Had a TV, but it only had cooking shows, and I didn't have a proper kitchen, so it was looking back, it was so depressing, but I felt so free, and I was so happy that I was able to get out of the city and actually start working. I was so happy to work that I would work every day, and I would be the first to start work, and I would go through on Sundays every day just to get the money. So yeah, that was the most stable job, I would say. But it only lasted probably 2.5 or 3 months. I was able to actually start on a planter. So one of those big planter machines, with 24 meters wide, which was actually pretty cool, I remember I was not meant to plant any I was not meant to plant any wheat or barley. We were meant to have someone else come in for that, and there was actually proper people with skills, but that person didn't show up, and my farm manager just said, "Hey, make me proud. I'm going to teach you something now." And yeah, I was just left there and had to do my job, and it was amazing. It was such a cool experience, and I had a really good time. I did enjoy the farm life so much that I was like talking to the people in the farm and said, I'm going to live here. I'm going to find a farm and I'm going to live here forever. I'm going to be one of you. So I did enjoy it. So it was sad when it ended. Yeah.
And you've also done like solar farms. And
Yeah. So I, between the solar farms and the first farm job that I had about 4 months of break. Getting into a solar farm at that time was also quite difficult. I actually don't even know if it's any easier now, but I feel like they are more acceptable now for people who might not have that much experience. That's just what I've heard. Not 100% sure, but for me to start in a solar farm, it was so draining. Someone has told you a start date, and you're so ready to start. You illegally, if I can say that, crossed the border because of COVID. And actually was lucky because I lived in Mildura at that time, which was a border town. And, we were able to go across the border but not stay. So, yeah, don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but anyway, went to Griffith. So, went to Griffith, was ready to start the solar farm, but they kept postponing it, which was very frustrating because at that time, again, didn't have any money, which is so surprising. You get your first pay and then you just, buy clothes and everything else and think you're so rich until you're not. But yeah, they just kept postponing it so many times. At one point I just thought I'm not going to get a job ever. And I actually was given a choice to start either in a solar farm or with Grain Corp for grain season. I only went with the solar farm because I thought that a solar farm is probably more permanent because there's more farms being built all the time. It's all year round rather than just a season. So don't regret it because I would not be where I am today. But yeah, it was hard to start, but once you get started, it's really good. I did 1 year of solar farm and it was kind of non-stop. You kind of maybe have like a 2-week holiday here and there, but the work comes constantly. It's not like you have like massive breaks. As long as you are also, connected to the people who are supervisors and that, you make it clear that you want to go to the next farm when one ends and everything. So yeah, it was definitely very good opportunity, but it was one of those where you are in areas where there's not that much to do, but somehow I still managed to spend so much money. At first, we were paid monthly, so we got monthly salary,
Wow.
which was extremely difficult. And especially when you get like heaps of money at one point, and then you just think again, oh my God, I'm so rich again. Like, gosh, I can afford anything I want. And then 2 weeks later, gosh, when's the next payday? So any amount of money that you earn in Australia, it just goes so quickly if you don't have the right
Proper plan,
yeah. So you always need to plan ahead. Doesn't matter how much you earn, if you don't adjust your lifestyle, you're not going to save anything. Yeah.
I think everything you've told, at least for me, it really highlights like two things. One is the importance of English proficiency. Like you would not have been able to do door-to-door sales at all, and you probably would not have gotten to that farm because probably when you were calling, they heard that you had good English and they can work with you, and you were alone. You know, imagine if your English wasn't that good, you probably would not have felt safe enough to go to a rural country and work on your own. So that's a big thing. And yeah, I always tell people, if you're not on the job site, you don't have a job, because
Yeah.
they keep doing that. They keep postponing, and even if you have a contract, it can be yeah. So when did you how long have you been in Perth?
I've been in Perth, I think it will be 3 years in August, end of August. So time's gone fast here. I've spent most of my time now in Perth, I can see. And the best of my time in Australia has been in Perth. So, yeah, after solar farms, it was actually a very interesting time. I met my partner in the solar farm, so he was at that time my boss, which is a bit funny to say, but things just went that way, and would have never thought that we will actually be together for a long time, but here we are through a lot of stuff that's happened. I can say that working for, or like being together with someone who is your boss, is not very simple, which is something that definitely brought a lot of difficulties in the relationship, but we worked through it. But one of the difficulties led us to breaking up, which created a very funny story to think back to. But after a year of working in the solar farm, things were just quite tough between me and my partner. So we decided to go our separate ways. This is when I also stopped with solar farms, and I was like, yep, done. I'm going to Melbourne. And at that time, we were in Queensland and living in Gympie. So driving alone from Queensland to Melbourne is a bit of interesting one, especially when it's floods everywhere and it's a bit dangerous. But yeah, we decided to go our separate ways. Everything was so strange because it was probably the nicest breakup I could ever imagine of. The way we said goodbye was like just so hard at the time, because we were like not, it felt like we're not ready to let go, but we are. And then I had bought a car 2 or 3 days before to then move to Melbourne, because I was like so sure I need to be as far away from him as possible. You know that's just running away from things. So I had bought a car. I was so ready to drive. I had my plan ready. I was going to drive, I think it was like 12 and a half hours to Dubbo, which is like in the middle of New South Wales. I was going to drive that on day one. Then on day 2, drive something similar, 12 and a half, 13 hours. I might be wrong with the hours now, but drive to Melbourne and be there. It was just meant to be a 2-day drive, which ended up being 3 days with the fear of, or even 4 days with the fear of my car that I just bought being completely useless. It was me driving through a flood water, so that was a bit of a tough one. I was about 5 hours away from Gympie. I was in a lot of fear because it was a lot of rain. It was like the rain season, so it was a lot of raining, a lot of floods, but it wasn't anything crazy until I had driven on one road for probably 30 minutes and then it was road closed. So I had to drive back the same way and I'd go completely other way, and it was like a rural area. You don't know where you are, you don't know where to go. Nothing seems right. So I drove through a completely different route. Don't even know if it was right, but I was trying to follow the signs. And there was heaps of water on the road. But I could see another car drive through. I could see trucks going through. So I was like, oh, I'll get through there. But I had a Mazda 3, which is quite slow. It's not a very high car. So I got through the first flood. And then another one was like probably 60 meters after, driving through it, going through in the middle, hoping it's higher, and I get stuck right in the middle and trucks driving past me. I'm extremely scared. My first thing is I'm calling Liam, my partner who I broke up with, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. The car just stopped. I'm in the middle of the water. Car shaking when the trucks drive past. No truck. I don't expect the trucks to really stop for me, but come on. I'm like a girl in a car. Please stop for me and help me. Liam was like, yeah, I'm going to get someone to organize a trailer or a truck to come and pick you up. Where are you? Send me your location. I'm going to start driving there. And I'm like, 5.5 hours away from Gympie. Are you going to start driving? And he's like in the middle of a work day for him. And he's like, yep, I'm going there. And I'm like, okay, fine. Supporting me. I was happy with that. Then a ute goes by, which finally stops. And a farmer comes out of the car, pushes me out of the water, like the car, not me, like the car. And I'm just sitting in the car. And we were able to put the car on the side of the road. He dropped me off at a little cafe, which was just around the corner. And the funniest thing is he actually knew the farmers that I used to work for in my first farm. So Australia is super tiny, even though it's not. But I feel like everyone knows everyone, like in Estonia. And I went to the cafe. I was waiting for the truck to pick me up. The truck came a few hours later, like 3 hours later. Took me to Gundawindi, which is like a little town in New South Wales, I think. And an hour later, Liam arrived. He actually he didn't even need to come. We had just broken up. I was moving away, but he came there, 5.5 hours. Crazy. We stayed the night there. My car was at a mechanic's place because it completely stopped working. It was quite a new car as well, 2017, so it had a lot of electronics in it. So probably one of the electronics stopped. We were scared that the engine had water in it. It was quite a risky one because I had spent a lot of money on the car and I had just bought it and I was like freaking out. And then, we spent the night there, ate some pizza for dinner, just chilling. And the next morning we're going to find out my car situation. We had to wait a few hours to actually know if it's still drivable. And luckily, again, me being so lucky with everything all the time, the car was fine, and one of the filters had taken water in, which immediately stopped the electronics, which stopped it from being damaged more, etc., etc. It was amazing. And on top of it all, Liam was like, I want you to be happy and spend your money somewhere else. I'll pay for it. And I was like, who is this ex-boyfriend? What is it? What is this? This is not how you're meant to break up with someone. And yeah, it was hard again because we had to say goodbye again. Just for my safety, we had changed the route to my journey. So while we were waiting, I went to a police station to actually ask what roads were drivable, because a lot of floods were everywhere and everything was not updated yet on the internet. So I had a route in mind, but that meant that I had to sleep. Actually, I slept 2 extra nights, on the road. But the drive was probably the scariest thing I've ever done, because we left Gundawindi quite late, probably midday. I was driving to a little town on the coast, on New South Wales coast. And to get there, I had to go through this like mountain, well, not crazy mountains, but like a mountain road, which was very curvy. It was dark, it was raining, it was water on the roads, like, kangaroos, little ones. I was terrified. At that point, I was so tired as well. I was just drinking my Red Bull, sitting like extremely close to the car wheel, because I was like, if I'm gonna like do any wrong turns, I'm just gonna go down the hill. And it was a very scary drive. Probably one of the scariest things I've ever done in my life, because I had already gone through something extremely scary. I was emotionally broken because of the breakup. I didn't know what's gonna,
So much unknowing.
yeah, and I was there, a little girl, which actually not that little, but a little girl in a car in Australia, in dark, no connection. And it was that foggy dark where you can't see with lights on, but you can't, and it was just hectic. And when I finally, 4 days later, arrived in Melbourne, oh my God, that big relief. That was the best thing for me, but I didn't stay there long. I got to Melbourne. I had already a job arranged, which was actually pretty good. I think I started in like 2 days after that, and it was like a weighbridge job. I was I thought it was more like, it was considered as logistics, but I thought it was going to be more fun, but it was actually so boring that you would be playing like things on your computer, and like with my workmates, we'd be always like chatting about things. It was not that exciting. But I lasted at that job for about a month until Liam and I decided that we are going to get back together and we're going to drive my car back to Gympie. So it was just around the Christmas time. So my ultimatum for Liam was, you have to come and spend Christmas with me in Melbourne. Otherwise, I don't want to be together. I am very needy. So obviously he had to fly to Melbourne, and we had a Christmas together. We took the New Year's in Melbourne, had a great time, and then just traveled back home to Gympie, where I stayed as a stay-at-home girlfriend for 8 months. So that was a big change in my life again. Yeah. And
So you didn't want to go back to the solar farm where he was working?
No. I started my story with saying that being in a relationship with your boss is not good. Yeah. That's not good at all, that I chose not to earn any money.
Like the relationship dynamics are just...
No, it was not there. One of my kind of like points when we were talking about getting back together was that I don't want to work for you again, because that's not working. It's hard because he is a different person when he is a boss compared to when he is at home. So for me to like see that side and deal with the Liam who's at work, while I actually have a completely different Liam and a really nice Liam at home, it's hard, And, when you have a disagreement, it's completely different when you have a disagreement with your boss or a disagreement with your partner. So I think the lines got crossed a lot, and and just to, you know, kind of limit all issues like that, you know, you just need to take a choice. I'm gonna be a stay-at-home girlfriend, and I'd say if I would do it now, I would do it very differently. But back then it was pretty nice. But I think there was a lot of things I could have done differently when I was a stay-at-home girlfriend. Yeah.
So let's touch your visa journey a little bit. So you started off on a working holiday and you did all of your farm jobs. You did 3 years on working holiday?
Yeah, so I did 3 years of working holiday. I think I probably could have used extra visas, you know, with COVID. I did use one of the COVID visas that was the free one. I think there was one that was free. To be honest, I know very little about visas because I've been fortunate enough to not worry about it a lot, because Liam and I were together since I basically came here from just after the first year, so I've never really stressed too much about it. But I did 3 years of working holiday, 1 year of COVID visa, and then we applied for partner visa, which was in October. It will be 2 years since we applied.
So you're getting ready for your PR?
Yes, I'm
That's cool.
getting very ready. I'm very excited. This time has gone so fast, and I'm very happy. I can see all my friends struggling with visas, including you. So definitely can't even imagine the stress that you guys might carry. It's it's just so hard to stay in Australia, and I wish it was easier, but you know, I guess we would maybe have too many people here if it was easier, because it is amazing here. So but yeah, it's quite sad to see how my friends struggle, and I'm really hoping not to lose anyone, you know, not that I would lose you ever, like realistically, but
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, there is heaps of people leaving. Because you know you've taken on the Australian accent. You have Australian partner. You know you're very you know living and breathing Australian life. How do you have found? Because you know we mostly like interact with Estonians still. I don't know. I just find it easier, and I find it I don't know, like it's so much more heartwarming to speak in Estonian. How you found like finding real true friendships here?
Sorry. I guess it's definitely a bit more difficult, because what I've understood being here, that a lot of Australians, they already have their childhood friends who they grew up with, who they went to high school with, their friends groups, and it's kind of hard to actually be part of the friends group when it's already developed. And I understand that because, you know, I mean, I think as, you know, being here as backpackers, and we came here and we didn't have friends, we're probably more welcoming to new people, and we probably do want to, you know, expand our friends group and have more friends, and you know, be more welcoming with everyone. But when you have grown up with someone and you're always together with the same people, you kind of get into that routine when you where you are comfortable. And I personally have found that the people who I stick around the most are obviously our friends group here, who are Estonians. And you know, that's comfortable, and we know each other, and even though we haven't even known each other, except with you, we know each other for like a very long time, but with everyone else we haven't known each other for that long. But because we share the same story, and we kind of have the same background of coming somewhere where we don't know anything, we connect completely differently. But otherwise, I've noticed that I really do stick with people who I work with, which is like, or who I've worked with in the past. I do keep quite a small friends group. This is only because I seriously don't like speaking on Messenger, so I'm very bad at messaging people back, which you probably know. I really like, face-to-face conversations, catching up, doing things together. So for me, if I have too many friends, it gets exhausting. And not that I, need to see everyone all the time, but, it's hard to keep up with everyone all the time. And like I like having people who I'm close with and who I know that, okay, I've got this weekend free and I haven't seen that person in so long. I actually will message them and see if I can catch up. I like those sort of relationships where you don't need to kind of be present 24/7, because everyone has their own life, and it's nice to catch up about things. And you haven't seen someone for 2 months. Oh my god, I've got so much to tell you. Like, you just get this excitement, and it's fun. But then you have those friends that maybe you see more often, and you've got a more like an ongoing conversation going on, and you know more about each other, but you have completely different conversations as well, and maybe more personal, and just talk about more things that you don't speak about with everything.
Yeah, it's like more than a catch up.
Yeah.
What would you say, like, from your journey? Like you said, you would have done some things like differently, and obviously we still have in this podcast some people listening who haven't come to Australia yet, and they're still looking at starting their journey. So you have almost 6 years, but we're almost coming to 6 years. So what are some of those like learnings or tips that you would give to someone who is at the start of their Australian journey?
I would say that don't expect that you'll be rich like immediately. You can earn really good money here, but it won't come immediately. You have to work for it. You might be without a job for a very long time. You might have a job and then be without a job for a very long time. So you never know actually how things end up. Always be open to everything. Don't limit yourself at first. Later you can. If you want to do a specific job, be open at first. Like if you want to do just solar farm jobs and you definitely don't want to do anything else, or you want to go into mine and definitely don't want to do anything else, if you get the chance, start. Because if you have some sort of Australian work experience in your resume, it's way better than nothing. So be open, and don't expect to get rich, because this is, one thing that I definitely thought, and I can see a lot of other people expect immediate high salaries, a lot of work. They think that people take them to farms with open arms, but that doesn't happen. You have to be very outgoing. You have to want to show that you want the job. Otherwise, I think, don't stress too much. Have fun. Things always go the way they're meant to. My journey has been very colorful. A lot of things that have happened. I thought I'm going to be extremely rich. Never happened. so I mean, but I'm happy. So I guess that matters, So, yeah.
So how did you start going into the jobs that you are in today, finding, a city job, and now you've changed positions, and you've really, really like you keep progressing in that corporate life. So do you want to tell us about like what do you do today, and what does your day-to-day sort of look like?
Yeah, so it's funny because before I said be open to anything that you can get, but I wasn't. This actually goes back to when I lived in Scotland. I needed a job when I was there, and I refused to work in hospitality. I was like, I will never work in hospitality. But I only had done one job before, which was a lifeguard for 3 months. So I was already being picky. But I was consistent I was going to different shops, and I said, I want to work in retail because I love clothes. Like, anyone who knows me, they know I have so many clothes, probably too many. Probably order too many, and anything to do with clothes makes me happy. So I was like, I want to work in retail in a clothing store and I'm going to be happy. That's when I kept applying for jobs. My sister said, you have to start in hospitality. Otherwise, it's hard to get into retail. Not sure where exactly that came from. Probably maybe hospitality just, goes through people way faster. But I was consistent. I was dedicated to finding retail, which I then found. So coming to Australia, similar story. Now, this time it wasn't hospitality that I didn't want. It was retail that I didn't want. Oh, of course, hospitality is still not. Nothing against anyone who works in hospitality because it's just me. I could never do it. I would get so anxious. I can't even remember what I ate last night. So I could never do this. But yeah, I was so dedicated to finding an office job. We had just come to Perth. We were in Europe for 6 weeks visiting my family. That was Liam's first time seeing them. And Liam, obviously, he's been working for the same company the entire time that we've been together. So he was able to start working immediately when we came to Perth. He is from here, so it was a lot easier for him. We stayed with his brothers to start with. So I was just at home looking for a job. It was literally my daily activity to be sitting at a computer applying for jobs. Now, I probably applied for every single admin, assistant, reception job that there was out there. Obviously, nothing too complex because I know that if I'm going to apply for something that I know I will struggle with, I won't do it because when you apply for a job, what you want to do is you want to know that you're going to be able to perform. Because another thing I did with my resume is I did put a job in there that I had not done. And I didn't put anything crazy as the task that I had been completing. I knew that I'm capable of everything, which is where I didn't go wrong because I knew that I need a chance. I knew I'm able to perform those tasks. So I was trying to find a job that matched with what I was capable of doing. One thing I would say is if you really want something and you know you've never done it, you'll figure it out on the job. Like I was applying so much and then I finally found my job and I got a call and this is actually funny. Everything happens in a very strange way. I was applying for jobs and I said, I'm not going to do hospitality. And Liam was like, you need to do hospitality. We need another income, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. And I refused to do it until I said, okay, if 3 days go past and I still don't have a call or an interview, I'll start applying for hospitality. Now, 3 days go past and I actually had a tooth issue. My wisdom tooth started being extremely painful. And while I went to the doctors and was walking out of the doctor's office, I received a call. But I was not ready for a call. I was literally out walking to the car and I get a call from someone, like a woman calls me. And I'm like, who is this? I don't even know which job she's talking about. But I was too scared to ask what job it is that I just said, oh, yep, I can be there. I can come for an interview. I'm so excited. Didn't ask about the salary. Didn't ask about the location. I was like, yep, I'll be there. I have the car. I'm happy. I don't even have a car. I was just saying yes for everything because I really wanted the chance. And next day I had the interview. But it was the same day, it was probably 2 or 3 o'clock, and I had no clothes for an interview. I had been a backpacker my entire time in Australia, so I had no office-style clothes. So I had to run to Big W, I think I went to, and I got some quick clothes and some outfit ready. Very stressful. Actually didn't even have money again. This happens with me all the time. So I spent like my last $100 on clothes for a job interview. So that was an investment. And yeah, the next day, the doctor for my tooth actually, they gave me these extremely strong painkillers, which made me so dizzy that when I was driving to the interview, I was so scared of crashing. And when I finally got to the interview, I actually don't even like remember exactly everything I spoke about because I was in so much pain, but also like extremely like dizzy. So that was a very interesting one. And they seemed to really like me, which was good. And I met the team very briefly. I went home and I was expecting their call because they said they will call me back. And then they didn't until next day, or they emailed or something, and I got the job. So I was like, gosh, look at you. I should just start telling people, oh, if in 3 days this doesn't happen, then I'll, I should just start doing that all the time, because that's when I got my first job. And honestly, for me, it was scary because I had never even used a desk phone. And on my first day, I was put to use a desk phone. So I was a receptionist and administrator. So it was like, what was the official title? Receptionist and recruitment administrator, I think, like that. And yeah, it was very scary, but like I said, if you will figure it out, you'll figure everything out on the job. Now we've got Google and everything, so if they give you a task and you don't know how to do it, just say yes and then go Google. So that's how I feel like everything for me has been like. On my first week, they told me that I'm one of the best receptionists they've had, which was amazing. Because I was really eager to learn. I was a very hard worker. I think that's what I would recommend everyone else as well, is that Estonians are very well known to be working hard. So use that, because everyone knows. A lot of people who are like, gosh, you guys work so hard. I was like, yeah, we're all Estonians. we are hard workers. So so definitely show that off. Show that you're wanting to learn, and just be positive. Like, I think that's what's brought me where I am right now, is that I am always saying yes, except some very odd times where I don't. I always want to learn. I show that I want to learn. If I don't have enough tasks, that I'm extremely busy, I go and ask for more, because I do want to do more. And that's how you just succeed, because if you're whining and you don't want to do things, it's going to be difficult, and no one wants to deal with that, and no one wants to give you more opportunities. So it all comes down to just pushing yourself and pushing yourself hard. And I think sometimes, depending on a situation, like I said before, be open to anything, but sometimes you do have to be specific and, work hard towards something that you really want. Because if I would have, gotten an hospitality job, I don't know if I would be working in an office right now, because when you have another job, it's quite hard to start looking for something and be available for interviews, and actually, like, then you'll have the hospitality job on your resume, and, people will be like, well, why are you leaving already? Yeah, it's not good to hop from one job to another. So, yeah.
So, obviously you've shared how much you're eager to learn and how much you've been able to like excel in your career through that. How important has been like networking for you, or do you have any sort of I don't know, like skills that you use to really wider your network and really make yourself present?
I would say for that is that I actually have only been to two proper networking events in my old company. What I can say about that is, in Perth, any connection you have is amazing, because if you know people, they will be way more likely to hire you or talk to you, or it just makes your life easier. What I can say now is that I feel like I'm very open to speaking to a lot of people. I'm very fortunate to have an amazing boss who also likes taking his employees out for lunch or just spend time with him, that's when I get to meet a lot of people who are other business owners, and, you know, just even speaking to them or learning from them, and, you know, any information that you can learn from is always good. Even just listening to other people speak about anything to do with businesses is where you can get so much knowledge from, and then you go home and you start looking into that stuff and you're like, gosh, I've actually learned so much. So I'd say like proper networking, I don't really do that sort of where you go out of the office and you know, meet people and you sell your business and all that. But I definitely do a lot of connecting with people, and I love talking to people. And even in my company, I love always having a bit of personal touch when I speak to the employees that we have. And just when you need something and you call someone, you know, for some information that's needed or for anything, I always like having a bit of banter in there, you know, just to build a bit of relationship. It's definitely something that I enjoy, and I think, you know, doing the job I do as well, which actually I've never even mentioned what I do now, is in the company I work for now, I am the administration and systems manager. It's a very interesting position because I actually do so many different things. I cover almost all the HR, well, actually all the HR for the company. I do obviously the admin part, and I do all the systems, which is like technical support for softwares and everything, and it's very, very fun, and I love it. like when you could speak about a job, I feel like I'm doing my dream job, but it can always get better. I know, you know, like, but I can tell that every day I go to work, I kind of choose what I do, but I also have like set tasks. But you just go there and you just have a good time because anything you do is like joyful. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's so cool to hear.
But yeah, I definitely am quite out there, and I would say one thing is that the more I've worked and the longer I've worked, the more confident I've gotten, and I can tell a massive change in my own behavior in the last few months of how much confidence I've gained. I do like going out to places, and whenever like my boss is also saying, hey, do you want to come along, I'm like, yeah, let's go. You know, I have so much fun and seeing people. And another thing, which is maybe random, I know, you know, I mentioned that I love clothes, but a very important thing that has changed my confidence is also like putting a lot of effort into, well, not that much, but effort into how you look. You know, if you wake up in the morning, you put a bit of makeup on, you fix your hair, and you wear a nice outfit, you feel way better during the day. You feel, it literally makes you feel so much more confident. Like, and I wear heels to work, which you mentioned before. And on days where I don't wear heels, I feel less little, which is, no, more little. I feel more little, which is funny because it's just shoes. But, you know, little things like
just
that.
sets your day,
Yeah, it just changes a lot. And you just make, you know, as, you know, I work in the fire industry, which is where it's a lot of men as managers, and men just lead the industry a lot. So when you do, you know, put effort into yourself and you feel a lot better yourself, you're going to make it a lot better because you need that confidence in working around a lot of male. You know, a lot of times people don't take women as seriously. And that was actually one of my fears when I was promoted to the position where I do now, was that what if people don't take me seriously? And I was like, I was sitting at a reception desk when I started and I'm being promoted to a manager. How are they going to take me seriously? But it was all in my head, because if I worry about it and I act differently, that's when people also know, and they probably would treat you differently. So the way you think is the way that, you know, you just need to think the way that you want to be. Yeah.
Do you feel like being from Estonia, has that more excelled you? Like, has that been sort of a plus for you? Or do you feel like that has made your career journey here harder?
Um, it's a very interesting question, actually. I've never thought of that. I think it's actually not much difference for me personally, because I don't really think much about being from Estonia. I know I am from Estonia, but because my everyday life for a very long time already has been always speaking in English in my, at home with Liam, I don't really think of being Estonian like that much. So I'd say for me, if anything, they like that from a different country, and it brings like a different conversation. Like even today when I had a meeting, like you just get to speak a bit more personally with someone else, and you can mention, oh yeah, we're from a small country, it's kind of a way, if you want to, you can make it a very good conversation topic. So but yeah, I don't really think about it too much, to be honest.
Before, we started this podcast, we were also speaking about like the recruitment side of your job. Obviously in your everyday job, you go through a lot of like different like resumes and applicants, and you've seen, being, systems manager, you sort of see like how the back end of people applying looks like. So from that, do you have like recommendations for people who are looking for a job, on like what to keep in mind when they're building up their resumes, their cover letters, and even maybe, I always promote LinkedIn in here, so even like the importance of LinkedIn when looking for a job?
Yeah, so I can definitely say that a resume does not have to be too long and too difficult. So I don't think there's anyone really out there who's employing and who will read through your whole resume. So to keep it simple, easily readable, you need to just make sure that if someone looks at it at a first glance, that they see the important parts that you really want to promote. So coming from a recruiter, or I wasn't a recruiter, but I was working with a lot of recruiters, I know that they don't really read into. Obviously, they have a lot of applicants, and you only really look more into a resume that is going to be good, and 100% that's you're going to be interested in, unless it's a funny one and you just want to get a good laugh. But for example, with recruitment companies, what they do is they often search in their database already as well for keywords, or even just for the new applicants for keywords. So if you're looking for a specific job, or you do have specific skills for that job, it's always good to put those words in your resume, and in a good way that they are searchable, because sometimes with specific words you can change them around in a way that if you search it, it won't come up. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, in general, it's always good to keep your resume simple, not too long. It's always to have a little about you section at the top, your main skills, and a little about every job that you've done. Now, another thing which I often see as a mistake is that always put months on your resume, because a lot of people just put 2022, 2023. Well, we don't know how long you actually worked there, because if you look at 2022 to 2023, it's actually quite a short time at a job. Obviously, depends what sort of job you do, but just putting no months gives no information. If you could have been there from 2022 December to 2023 January, which was only 2 months, but you could have also been there from January 2022 to December 2023,
Yeah.
that almost 2 years. So you should really put those months in there. You don't have to put the specific dates, but months is very helpful. But yeah, don't make it too long. You also don't need to put your marital status, or how tall you are, or how much you weigh in there.
Does that happen?
Yes, I've seen that a lot. And you don't need to put a photo in there. If you think that's helpful, go for it. But it's always good, like you said, LinkedIn presence. I like looking up anyone who I'm interested in on LinkedIn. If they are on LinkedIn, I always have a better feeling about it. I always like connecting. And yeah, on LinkedIn, it's always good to have a photo, and just general information. If you have 3 connections, no photo, and only your school information added, it's not really helpful. But if you're actually interested in finding a job, especially an office job, I would definitely recommend keeping your LinkedIn up to date and active. And that's including a professional photo or your work history, a little bit about your jobs, which I actually should update mine, and yeah, cover photo, all those basic things, which is good. Maybe post here and there, nothing too crazy. I mean, if you're not a salesperson or a marketing person, you're not really expected to post heaps, but a post here and there is helpful. Another thing, what I would say is, if you're writing a cover letter, which is not always a must, it's kind of a 50-50 thing. Some people always say, I'm not looking at a person if they don't have a cover letter. Well, there's other people who say, I don't really care if there's a cover letter. But I personally think, if you want to take the time, always write a cover letter, or at least write one for the jobs that you really do want. And whenever I see a cover letter, like in my current job, I usually check a cover letter when the resume seems good, but I'm not 100% sure. So I check if they have a cover letter to see what they've written about themselves or about their skills. So usually when a cover letter has very general information, I'm not interested, because a cover letter should be written directly to the job if you want it to be genuine. You should change it around for every job, and you should put this tiny bit of effort in. Right now we have ChatGPT, we have everything on Google. It's so easy to write a cover letter specifically for the job that you're applying for. So taking those extra 5 minutes to adjust those things and just making it a bit more supportive is always good. And yeah, like calling could be good, depending really on the position. For example, if I've received a call, I usually look them up immediately on Seek, where we do our hiring. But it also is a 50-50 thing. For example, another position that we were hiring for, we were receiving a lot of calls. So if you receive too many calls, it might, if you're in a very busy time and you don't have time to maybe look into it, the call might not mean anything, but it does show initiative. So, for example, if you are already in a shortlist range and you do that extra step and you call the company, you might secure yourself a job because you showed the initiative and you showed that you wanted. So it's kind of, again, a 50-50 thing.
But what because obviously you get all of those calls. So I always say to people as well, like, call people. What is the best things to say when you are calling the recruitment company?
I would say, for a recruitment company, you call, and best is just to say, hi, I've seen the job ad for that position, because recruitment companies, usually a receptionist picks up and they want to be, they want to put you through to the right person. Now, sometimes it can be a bit hard, because if it's really busy, not every call is being put through. So it can be different. But just, say, I've seen the position, I'm very interested. I think I could be a good fit. Can I please speak about more information with the recruiter or just someone who's managing the role? Just, if you don't get through, okay, when is the best time to call again? Show initiative. And yeah, like I said, a call is always good. It might not work, but if it does, it will be, a game changer for you. So, and, in general, like from the recruitment experience, for not that I was a recruiter, but I could see that sometimes a person called who hadn't applied, and sometimes you don't even put your resume through, and you call, and you might end up being a really good fit for the role, because there's always more to the role than just what's written in the ad. There's always, things. And actually, with a recruitment company, there might be another role that's not even up posted yet that you might be good for, but they haven't even posted an ad for yet. So with recruitment companies, always call. With other companies, it's kind of tricky, but with recruitment company, just show confidence. Don't be too annoying though, because that can also come across differently. But always give a call, explain your situation, just be open, and don't be too, picky or anything. If you want help, also be more acceptable of what's given to you.
I actually have a funny story. At one shutdown that I did, there was this French guy, and we were speaking, and he was like, "Oh, I've only been in Australia for like 2 weeks," and I was like, 2 weeks, and you're already doing a shutdown. And he literally said to me that he was calling this recruitment, like FIFA recruitment agent, so many times that he pissed off the recruitment agent so much that she was just like, you know what, I'm fine. I'm booking your flights because you're annoying me so much. So just go there. She booked him on a shutdown because he was just calling so many times. And she was like, if you prove yourself to be a good worker, we can use a forward. Otherwise, don't never call me again. So, that can happen too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always say, because I've done like those calls 2 ways. Like you said, like I've called without even like sort of just seeing the ad, and I hadn't even applied.
Yeah.
And then they've gotten pretty upset. They're like, just apply, like we can't see anything. But I do have had those instances where I've actually applied, and when I've called them, they actually said that they can't see my resume. So then I was able to get like a personal email, which is the best thing that can ever happen. Do you want to talk a little bit about, your house spot and how you've created, and where does the Instagram idea to do one for your own house renovations come from?
Oh, well, you said before I've got 700 photos on my Instagram. So I actually, well, I didn't think it was going to be that many, but I have 170,000 photos on my phone. So kind of to just have a little bit of quicker look at my memories is the reason why I post on Instagram in general. Now, the reason why I made the house Instagram account was because I just really love seeing house transformations. I haven't been as active on the account as I've wanted to, only because last year when we bought the house, which was very sudden for us, I was speaking to my friend the other day, and she was like, "Oh yeah, like remember when you guys got the house, it was like, and you had the house." And I was like, "Yeah, actually thinking back, like we were thinking for months that we need to find something, and because we had our lease was gonna end where we were renting, and house market was very crazy, house is very expensive, da 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 da, all those things." And we went to 1 or 2 open homes, and then on one Saturday we suddenly had 8 open homes on one day, where we're just driving around in Perth, going from one, rushing to another. And the very first house where we actually went, oh gosh, so ugly. So ugly, but when you know it's right, you know it. We were walking there, and I was like, I'm very picky with houses. Like Liam can bow on that. He's like, yeah, you are like very difficult to please. So when we were walking through our house, I was like, gosh, this is so bad, but I could live here. I could work with it, because the base of the house itself was really good and sturdy, and it looked like really well kept. It was just outdated. So that was immediately the first house. I was like, gosh, this could be the one. And the price was a lot lower than we were, looking at. So, well, not that we were looking at a specific price. Obviously, we wanted cheaper the cheaper the better, but at that time it was at certain suburbs it was quite hard to find something that was at this price. So we proceeded to go to other home opens. It was going well, but some houses were nice, some were not, and it was quite tricky. We didn't really want to buy an already established nice house because you pay for that, but then is it really going to go up in price? Like, it probably will, but you'd rather want a shit house, work it, do it good, and then get it right, rather than going into a house that someone else has renovated and then you kind of don't want to renovate it yourself because it's already looking nice, but you're not actually really
happy with it.
Yeah. So I think it was the same evening we were communicating with the real estate agent as well for the house we saw that morning, and we were kind of like showing interest. I think we were offering, I can't even remember if it was the same day that we were doing the offerings or the next day, but it was an offering war. We had to over offer multiple times to actually get it, and it went up a lot, but it was so worth it because I think the house is already gone up in price heaps, considering we only bought it less than a year ago. So that was, I think we bought it in April, so yeah, basically almost a year now. It was a very quick journey for us. It went like extremely fast. Next thing I know, I'm going into the house with the keys. We've got everything, taking photos of it to make sure I've got something for an Instagram that's not there yet. And we started renovating the house. We lived in our apartment in Subiaco until mid-July, so we had a few months to work on it. To be honest, we did not think through anything. We kind of like went in there and started ripping things apart, and we actually got very lucky because the house had only one family lived in there since they built it. So meaning it's just one family. They really kept the place really nice. They took care of it. With rentals, it's often treated bad, things are broken, things are not that nice anymore. But our house ended up being really good. We ripped up the vinyl floors, found Jara floorboards, which is amazing. Things were just going so well, but gosh, some decisions we were like rushing. Well, I was rushing. Liam's a bit of a slower person, so he doesn't want to rush into things, but I'm not patient at all. So I need to do all the time. So I was kind of taking the lead and doing a lot of things, and some things during the journey we were kind of regretting. I think we've learned to love everything except the color of the walls, which is the painter. He recommended something that we didn't end up liking, which I really regret, and I want to paint everything again, but it's too early. I decided to do the Instagram to post things before and afters. I was kind of doing well at first until I didn't, and my family came here for last Christmas, so we just had to rush through a lot of renovations. A day before my sister came, we were not even sleeping in our master bedroom because we didn't even have a bed. So it was all very rushed. We had to get like extra floorboards done. I had to do so much stuff. Just before my family arrived, we had doors put in because we didn't even have a toilet door for a really long time. And we had so many things being done that when my family came, I was like, gosh, I'm so tired. Can we just take a break? But it wasn't really much of a break. But yeah, because last year was it was so rushed, I kind of didn't prioritize the Instagram. And I think this year I really want to get into it again. I've got like photos. I don't really take much videos because I'm quite lazy, but I do like taking photos of things. So I have photos of progress to post and maybe put a bit of a story with the photos. So
Mm.
definitely something, you know, to share, and it's just exciting for myself as well to look back, you know, maybe in 10 years I'll look back, look, Liam, this is what we built, this is
Yeah.
what we did. So it's definitely mostly for memories that I do. Yeah.
Mm. That's so cool, and that's so cool that you've done all those renovations yourself, and you know, learning, and like you said before, like if you don't know how to do something, just Google it,
Yeah.
just YouTube it, you know, just
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that about
Yeah.
you. So you know, you shared before how you and Liam went through, you know, like a small breakup, and then you know you moved through different states, and you know you as a person has, you know, evolved and changed so much with, you know, starting out as a backpacker, and yeah, now you're, you know, you have a house, and you're you know working in the city, and you don't have him as, you know, your boss anymore. So maybe if you want to share, because you know we're always seeing like all of these long relationship fall apart in Australia because of these massive personality changes and these massive just changes in your mindset and your life, and you know you sort of come here to, you know, I change every week. Like something I changed a week ago and what I thought a week ago is now completely different. Especially, you know, me doing my YouTube channel or a podcast, you know, something I said maybe in the first episode is something I would say that's not true
Yeah,
anymore, you know?
exactly.
So we go through all of these changes. So what do you feel like has been really a game changer for you guys? Maybe it's like the way your communication, or how you've, you know, after those, you know, big decisions to, you know, go your separate ways. What do you guys have any, you know, what's the secret to a relationship, you know, or like what do you have any like tips or
I think completely from my own point of view, I've realized lately that I have been completely different since we bought the house. I think I have found myself as a person. I have gotten to a point in my life where I feel really comfortable with myself, with my home. We have a baby cat, and we have another baby cat that we adopted on Saturday. So I'm really, you know, I like to call mum life. But I've really found myself and the things that I enjoy in life.
to like
I
inner peace
Inner
sort of?
peace, exactly. It's that's what was missing. I was kind of doing all these fun things, being a backpacker, things that sound really fun, but I never really felt genuine happiness. Like I would be happy, but I would always be missing something, always wanting something different. I'm quite a kind of like a closed person in some sort of ways. I always need my space. I want to have my own things, everything. I always missed that in my life. And even though most times when we did live together with Liam, it was our space, we didn't share with anyone, we were kind of living like a normal life, it was still not the same. Even in our apartment where we rented, it was not the same. It just didn't feel right. Um, but yeah, when we bought the house and we moved in and I got my new job, which actually is a game changer. When you have a great job, oh my God, my confidence has gone up so much. I can tell that because things that used to bother me, I don't care about, you know, because I know how I am, what I'm worth. I know everything, well, not everything about myself. I've still got so much to learn, but I've never understood myself as clearly as I do now. And I've never been as confident. And it's been changing the whole relationship, the whole dynamic between Liam and I. And just having that comfort of, you know, having your own home, building something together, having your own two babies who you take care of. It's all changed so much because not everyone is meant to be a backpacker. It's a lot of people who love it and they do want to go travel and do all those things. But, you know, it's okay to also be different and, you know, want to settle and want to be in a one place. Like, I still love traveling. I love going to places, but I'm I'm like a routine freak. Like this weekend was so out of routine with a sudden adoption and everything. And I was feeling very frustrated because I didn't feel like I was in my comfort zone of knowing everything that I do, and, you know, just having the little parts of my day that are, you know, maybe boring to some people, but very important to me, that make me feel good. So I think definitely finding your own comfort zone is what makes everything around you feel completely different, and you kind of just start seeing things so much clearer, and you just feel more peaceful, and you just don't get bothered by, you know, a lot of random things.
No, that's true. I'm so happy for you that you've found your way, and you've found your, you know, femininity, really. Like you're thriving in your own space, and I love to see that. Do you have any like one of, before we finish off, you know, being with Australian, obviously it's, you know, a lot different experience. If you know, there's other people who are maybe, you know, because I thought I'm coming here and, you know, changing my life completely and whatever. Would you say, like, is it harder to be with someone who's not from the same, like, cultural background, or do you feel like it makes the relationship even, I don't know, like more exciting? Or
So yeah, I would say there used to be at the beginning, but now you know, we've gotten so used to everything, and we kind of have, I wouldn't say we really do much of Estonian stuff, but I don't know if we're really Aussie either. We're kind of like just, you know, chilling and doing our own thing, and we've kind of developed this routine and just lifestyle of our own, and every now and then when it is possible, or when we, you know, like just like Estonian Independence Day or things like that, we try and bring in a bit of Estonian culture to make it a bit homey. And, you know, when my family, you know, we've gone to Estonia, when they come around, we really do try and do Estonian things. So it's definitely, the culture is there. There are differences, but I think at this point now, we've kind of joined our forces and become one. And it's not that difficult anymore. But I do remember blaming, if it's my Estonian, you know, it's different, or language barrier and all those things. So a lot of excuses for a lot of things, but yeah, it's changed a lot.
Because I remember at first when I came here, I was like, how do I explain a guy that we have like this massive midsummer festival, and then you like have to jump over a fire, and it's like completely normal. Because like we do all of these like weird small things that I've never even like thought of.
I know.
But now when I'm like speaking with Australians, or, you know, when it's your birthday, you have to raise the person on their chair, how many, you know, what age they're getting.
Or
and
even,
it's so normal.
Yeah, or even like it's someone's like birthday and all relatives are there and drinking shots of vodka. Everyone's like, what? Or like you go to a sauna and all women go naked and all men go naked. They're like, why would you go naked to sauna?
I did tell my co-workers that, and they were like, I am planning my next trip to Estonia. I was like, yeah, we go to the sauna all naked together, and then we beat each other with like leaves.
Yeah.
And that's just a tradition.
It's so
that's
normal.
What we do, yeah.
Yeah, but here it's everyone's like, what?
Yeah.
All of you naked, sitting on the same seats, and I'm like, yeah.
All right. One last question before we finish. I didn't add it to your questions either, so this is gonna be completely whatever comes off your mind first. If you could share one message with the whole world, what would that be?
That's a very tough one, but I think lately what I've thought about a lot is just, you know, don't forget your own happiness, because a lot of the times we're trying to please everyone else. We're always trying to work for something. We're always trying to be so much better and so much that and so much this, but we often forget ourselves. And this is one thing that why I do get a bit of anxious when I have too much going on, where I don't have control, is where I start feeling disconnected between with myself. And, take the time to just sit down, think about your thoughts, go for a walk with no music on, just think about things, or just sit down and plan things ahead, or, just always be yourself and think about yourself, because you have to daily live with yourself. So if you always think about everyone else or your job or everything else in your life, and you forget about the main person in this world, which is you're never going to be happy. And sometimes you do have to do things differently to everyone else to be happy, and that's completely normal. So I think this year I've really wanted to kind of give myself some peace and some time to rest and not rush things, but also just, I said I'm not very patient, so I do like rushing. So a little bit of both. So yeah, everyone always think about yourself, and that's how you'll be happy and how you'll maintain your happiness. So yeah.
There's no one else. Yeah. Well, thank you, Aveli. Thank you for your podcast episode today. If you haven't yet, I really recommend to follow her. If you do post, you share everything. And all of your photos are extremely good. Like, I think you have a hidden talent for photography, definitely there.
Thank you.
You can really see the effort you've put in, and you definitely have an eye for like capturing moments and capturing nature. I absolutely love keeping up with you, and I'm always looking forward to those random bursts of posts
2
that
months
we do.
after.
But yeah, I really do hope that you get your peace and you get your, you find your center and you keep going. And yeah, thank you for today.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. It was so much easier than I thought, and it was at first a bit funny to be speaking to your friend like that, but it's amazing. And this what you do is amazing and so entertaining. I've listened to almost every podcast so far, so yeah, honestly, everyone, if you haven't listened yet, and this is the part that you see, start listening from the beginning. So thank you for having me. This was so exciting. I can tick it off from my bucket list. Yeah.
Many more to come.
Oh, 100%. I would love to come here again as well.
Yeah, we'll do another one in 1 year when you maybe like finish the house and
Yeah. A lot of changes coming.